AI is everywhere, right? But what is it really? How does a machine actually learn? Let's cut through all the jargon and get right down to it. We're going to break down how AI really works.
Okay, so let's just get the big one out of the way first. Is AI actually intelligent? You know, we picture this silicon brain, thinking, reasoning, just like we do. But, well, the reality is pretty different. An AI doesn't think like a person. It learns. And believe me, that one little distinction is the key to understanding everything.
So if it's not thinking, then what in the world is it doing? Well, back in the day, programming was all about rules. You had to literally write an instruction for every single thing a computer might encounter. But modern AI, it just completely flips that idea on its head. We don't give it rules anymore. Instead, we just show it a ton of examples, and I mean tons, and we let it figure out the patterns for itself.
I mean, just think about that for a second. The old way was so rigid, right? A programmer had to sit there and try to predict every possible situation. If this happens, then do that. But this new way, it's all about discovery. We're not spoon-feeding it logic. We're basically just pointing it at a mountain of data and saying, go find the patterns. That's its whole job.
And this actually brings us to a really helpful way to think about all of this. Just imagine an AI is like a student. It starts out knowing absolutely nothing, a total blank slate. And for it to learn anything at all, it has to study. So what are its textbooks? Well, they're those examples we just talked about. Millions, sometimes even billions of them.
Now, these textbooks have an official name you've probably heard, training data. That's it. It's just the entire library of stuff the AI student studies to learn how to do something. So, for example, if you want an AI to recognize a cat, you don't tell it about whiskers or pointy ears. Nope, you just show it millions and millions of pictures of cats. It connects the dots all on its own.
Okay, so here's something really important to get straight. Our AI student basically has two parts to its life. There's the in the classroom phase, where it's doing all its studying, and then there's the out in the real world phase, where it actually uses what it learned. That first part is called training. This is all the heavy lifting, the behind-the-scenes work, where the AI is just digging through mountains of data, finding all those patterns. The second part, that's what you and I see. That's the using it part. So when you ask a chatbot a question, you're talking to an AI that's already done all its homework. The learning phase is long over.
And that's a key thing to remember. We almost never interact with an AI while it's still learning. We're only meeting the graduate. Its entire education, all that hard work, it all happened in some giant data center way before we ever got to type a single word to it.
But wait a minute. If our AI is a student learning from textbooks, what happens if the textbooks are full of mistakes? And this right here brings us to maybe the single most important part of this whole story, what I like to call the AI's data die.
If you take away just one thing from this, let it be this. An AI is only as good as its data. That's it. It's like a mirror. It can only reflect what it's shown, the patterns, the facts, and yes, all of the flaws in the data it learned from. It doesn't have any knowledge of its own. If it wasn't in the textbook, as far as the AI is concerned, it doesn't exist.
And this is where things get really serious. You've probably heard that old saying in computing, garbage in, garbage out. Well, for AI, you can multiply that by about 1,000. If the textbooks we give our student are garbage, if the data's incomplete or biased or just flat out wrong, then the graduate AI is going to be just as flawed. It has no way of knowing any better.
And that is exactly why we can't just let an AI loose on the internet and hope for the best. It's why human oversight is so critical. We need people to act as librarians, to curate the textbooks, and to make sure the stuff these powerful students are learning from is actually accurate and fair.
But what about when the data is good? Why do we still see even the smartest AIs make these bizarre mistakes and say them with so much confidence? Well, it turns out that even the star student has a secret, fundamental weakness.
And here it is. This is the final crucial piece of the puzzle. An AI has absolutely no concept of what is true or false. It has zero common sense. Its one and only job is to predict what should come next, the next most probable word in a sentence, the next most probable pixel in a picture. It's a pattern-matching machine, not a truth-finding machine.
So, an AI could totally spit out something just like this. Why? Because it's seen millions of sentences about smartphones, millions about microwaves, and millions about charging. And based on pure statistics, it might just mash those concepts together into an answer that sounds like a real sentence, but is completely, dangerously wrong. It has no clue what a microwave actually does. It's just predicting words.
This is so important. When an AI gets something wrong like that, it's not a bug that a programmer can just go in and fix. It's not a typo in the code. It's a fundamental limitation of how the whole system works. It's a feature, not a bug, of a system that only knows how to predict patterns.
So, where does that leave us? What does this all mean for you and me? Well, it means we have to kind of shift how we think about these tools. We're not talking to a thinking mind. We're using a very, very sophisticated tool that is just incredibly good at mimicking patterns. And really, that brings us full circle. We've got to remember that these AI systems are mirrors. They reflect back at us everything we fed them, all the knowledge, all the creativity, and yep, all the biases and junk that's in the data too. They're basically a reflection of our own digital universe.
So I'll just leave you with this one final thought. If AI is the student, and all our data, all our writing, all our images, if that's the textbook, then that makes us the teachers. Which leads to a pretty huge question we all have to ask ourselves. What are we actually teaching it?